Test, test. James, you good? All right. 6:30, we're going to get started. Thank you for the people that attended in person this evening, and thank you for the ones that are listening online or watching online. I'm John Stangler. I'm the Director of Buildings and Grounds and Safety Coordinator for the school district. We also have Rachel York, who is the Chief Information Technology Officer. We have our School Resource Officer, Julie Budenhagen. We also have Officer Ryan Kraus with the Village of Pewaukee Police Department. And we also have Special Agent Sarah DeRain, who will primarily be covering this session. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items. We have the resource links if you grabbed one on your way in, and we'll also be able to push it out online to the people watching online. The first couple of quick items regarding that. For if there's any threat or any worrisome online behavior, reporting it to an adult is always a great decision. You can report it to anyone in the district, a teacher, an administrator, a school counselor, a principal. If you don't feel comfortable talking to any of those adults in the building, feel free to talk to our school resource officer or the police department. And also, the third option would be to report it on Speak Up, Speak Out Wisconsin. The website is located on the resource links, and also the second link listed is the direct form for reporting any concern or threat. We also have on the resource links here, we have violence in video games, and it's just a reference. On the YouTube link, you'll be able to see just a development of the violence that happens in video games, and also you'll see the different video games kids are playing today and the blood and gore that some of them have that get to and have progressed to within video games. So just a point of reference, if your kids are playing a lot of video games, be sure to watch that YouTube video. We also have an internet and texting slang terms. There's a resource guide. There's a 6-page PDF that'll go through a lot of slang that either you can pick up that you see your kid probably texting and or using with chat or online. Just a great reference guide for you. And there's also an Emojipedia resource link in there as well. So if you're having issues of knowing what the emojis are, feel free to reference that. We also want to just talk about, like, say, if there's a threat or something that you see or some worrisome online behavior, don't take a screenshot of it and post it on the parents' Facebook page. Report it to the administrators or any of the administrators or the police department so we can act on it and take it seriously, but then also it can go up the ladder accordingly depending upon the severity. A couple months ago, there was a TikTok threat regarding a Friday, regarding going to school and this is going to happen. Well, there's nothing regarding that TikTok threat within our district or even our state from that TikTok threat, but that people spreading that and sharing it and reposting it create a lot of panic throughout the entire country. So you can kind of see the extremes of, hey, if there is a threat, report it to administrators or the police department, and we can act on it accordingly. Also, just from if there is communication that will be pushed out from the school district, we will primarily use School Messenger, but I know Dr. Katie would use any mediums necessary if we need to communicate out to the community, parents, or any staff members that need to know about a certain situation going on. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel York, and she will cover the next section.
Thanks, John. So, sorry, a little shorter. So welcome. As John mentioned, I'm the Chief Information Technology Officer here. So I just want to touch on a few things that we have. John mentioned some resources that are on the page that we gave to you. The resource that's up on the screen is the resource listed on the front side of this as well. And this is a resource that the school district maintains for you, updates. You'll see there's a message from Dr. Katie there. There's ways to contact all of us in the district as well as Officer Budenhagen. And so this is a really great place for you to go check out some information. Just to touch on a few things, advice from cyber experts. So this particular resource is brought to you by one of our filtering services, and so they update it with school psychologists, psychologists across the country, things that they're seeing, and very, very well updated. There are app reviews on there, so if your child wants to see an app, you could check out this as one of your possible sites. What is it all about? What are the options within there? They have parental guides in there. Boy, I wish I would have had that when my kids were younger. Shows you if your child wants a phone, is it an age-appropriate time, and what kinds of parental controls should or could you put on the phone, depending on the device that your family chooses. So it will take you through all of the steps to do that. And just kind of be a support for you, so that you don't have to, you're not alone in that. And then just finally, conversation pieces, ways to engage your child so you don't come in as the person that doesn't know anything and your child has so much more information. So lots of resources for you, and I encourage you to check that out. Finally, just as parents, for the parents in the room, in grades 2 through 12, our students are bringing home a device that we give them every day. They're asked to take it home every night and be prepared for learning the next day. And we are aware that we are putting that device then in your home for you to manage in the evenings. What I wanted to message out to you tonight is that our filters, which are not 100%, no filter is, you should never count on a filter to be 100%, our filters are still working after your child leaves the school district. Those, I like to say those Chromebooks come back and talk to our filters before they deliver content, even when they're on your Wi-Fi and away from ours. So when your child wants to use a device in the house, if you are not filtering in your house, you can safely give them our device, and they are still filtered as if they were at school on the device that we have given them. Not sure if that makes complete sense to you, but if you have questions about it, please let me know. I always say if your child wants to use your device at home, that should be a, oh, what are you doing that you can't do on the school device that we've given you? That should ask that question. So with that, I'm going to share, next one coming up is Officer Budnigan.
Hi there. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the school resource officer, Officer Julie Buddenhagen. I am typically at the school district Monday through Friday during school hours. So the purpose of this whole presentation is obviously to give you information to try to keep our kids in our community safe. Recently we had the opportunity as a Village of Pewaukee Police Department to work with the FBI on a case that involved one of our local teenagers in a scam. So the teenager was a victim. It really opened our eyes up that since COVID we really haven't done a presentation offered to parents and community members in quite a while, so this is really something we feel would be beneficial. As an officer at the Pewaukee Police Department, we've been an ICAC, or Internet Crimes Against Children affiliate, since 2010. Officer Kraus, who's also here, is our newest member of that task force. So we're hoping with this partnership with the FBI that we'll be able to give some really good information out to you guys. We're here if you have questions. I'm here at any point if you ever want to report something or talk to me. It's not just about internet stuff, but I'm here for everybody's safety if you have any type of questions. Thank you. So next up is Agent Sarah Durain from the FBI.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be here, especially like after COVID, trying to get out, get in front of students, get in front of parents. I know that the FBI kind of seems like this big mystery organization to a lot of people. Not a lot of people get a chance or ever meet a special agent in their life. Most people don't want to. But I want to be here, and I really want to change that perception. Like we are an organization. We work for you. We work for our victims. We want to make sure that the kids are safe, make sure that you guys have the right tools to keep the kids safe, make sure you guys feel comfortable coming to us. We're not a big, scary government organization all the time. So I work in the FBI Milwaukee office. I've been there for about a year now on our Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force. We cover the entire state of Wisconsin. So here you have, like, the internet connects your kids to the world, and do you know who in the world is connecting to them? If your child is on the internet, anybody in the world can connect to them. And it sounds like a scary, kind of daunting thing, and in a way, it really should be. And I think a lot of what you guys are going to hear from me tonight, or what you hear from your kids or students here, is that they know all of this. Everybody knows the internet is big, expansive. You can find anything on there. Everybody knows that there are bad actors on the internet. Everybody knows internet safety is important. What it comes down to is we forget. And when an opportunity presents itself, we forget. And if it's not a constant conversation that you're having with your kids, when they get put in the situation, everything they know about the internet safety, don't talk to strangers, it just leaves their mind. And they're not trying to do a bad thing. They're just not thinking. They're caught up in the moment. And that's something that we're really trying to combat with, like, constant communications and trying to get out in front of people. This is kind of an uncomfortable topic to talk about sometimes. I mean, just the term child pornography, right? That's uncomfortable, and especially, I know there are some kids here, so should have given a warning before we did this that we're going to talk about those words. But, like, it's something that shouldn't be uncomfortable to talk about, especially for parents speaking to your kids. The more open and honest you can be with them about the dangers about what this is, the more open and honest they can be with you if something happens. So this came from our Department of Justice. It's defined: child pornography is any visual depiction of sexually explicit content involving a minor, so someone less than 18 years old. Images of child pornography are also commonly referred to now as child sexual abuse images. Federal law prohibits the production, distribution, importation, reception, or possession of any image of child pornography. A violation of federal child pornography laws is a serious crime, and convicted offenders face severe jail time and fines. So it's a little bit about the FBI. We have our Violent Crimes Against Children program, which local departments call their Internet Crimes Against Children. It's the same thing, basically. So, I mean, it's really unthinkable to think about how many thousands of children every year are exploited, and how many of those start on the internet or on a simple mobile app that probably 98% of kids have. So the mission of our Violent Crimes Against Children program is to provide a rapid, proactive, and comprehensive ability to counter all threats of abuse and exploitation to children when those crimes fall under the authority of the FBI, identify, locate, and recover child victims, and strengthen relationships between the FBI and federal, state, local, tribal, and international law enforcement partners to identify, prioritize, investigate, and deter individuals and criminal networks exploiting children. And part of that is why I'm here today and working with the Village of Pewaukee Police Department. Like, we want to be out there. We want to catch all these bad actors. We did a presentation to students a couple weeks ago, and this is kind of just, you guys, what we went over briefly with them. These questions were prompted by them, and they were really good questions. They seemed pretty engaged by it, starting with, like, steps to be more safe on social media platforms, managing followers, privacy settings. Big one is teen groups aren't just for teens, kids groups aren't just for kids. If it's marketed towards kids or teenagers, that is going to be a immediate trigger for a sexual predator. So even certain things that you think are like certain games, which I'll get into a little bit more later, but like Roblox, which is supposed to be for just children, for little kids, it's supposed to be safe for little kids. No child predators are supposed to be able to contact kids on that. And I can tell you, we serve legal processes, meaning subpoenas and search warrants, on that company too. So it's not, if it's for kids, it's immediately going to be like a beacon for child predators. Warning signs that it's a scam or whoever you're talking to isn't actually who you're talking to. They're not going to understand your abbreviations. They're confused by what you're saying. Any picture that they need your face in it. Empty profiles. And if someone is just like randomly adding you. And what to do if asked for nude images, and the best thing to do is say no, block their profile, and report it to the app, and then report it to law enforcement, trusted adult, a teacher. Biggest thing we wanted to stress to the students when we talk to them is if you send an image, you are a victim. It does not, we are not in the business of like punishing victims. Children do not have the ability to provide consent in these situations. Like if you're under 18, someone coerced you into sending a nude image, you are a victim, and we really hope that like we push that through. And I hope when you guys talk to your kids and you go home, you know, and you're preaching internet safety, just make sure they know if something happens, they're a victim, they're not in trouble. And I can't tell you the number of kids that don't ever come forward, and I don't find them until like it takes one who finally does. And then I'll get a search warrant for this social media site, and I'll look through it, and then there's 100 more. And 100, that means there was 100 kids that didn't feel comfortable coming forward. And there's 100 kids sitting there, you know, for every one we know about, feeling guilty, feeling lost, feeling anxious. And we really want to make sure that, you know, they're comfortable coming forward to somebody. So, and I think a big fear comes is they don't want to get in trouble. And there's always been this perception that if a child takes a nude image and sends it out there, that, oh, they produced child pornography and they sent it out, so like they committed a crime too. And that perception really needs to stop. It really needs to go away. I can tell them that all day, but hopefully, you know, we have the backing of you as parents to make sure that they know that too, and that, you know, they can come to you. These are common social media sites. I'm sure everybody in here knows at least most of these. The ones I put in bold are just ones we see most often. I'm sure Snapchat is no surprise to anybody. People think they're so safe on Snapchat because they're like, oh, I'll know if someone takes a screenshot. I can tell you how many people we see when I go and get into their phone that they just took their phone, they had two phones, took a picture of one phone with the other phone, and then you never knew that they just saved your nude image. So people think they're safe, and they're not. Kik is a pretty big hotspot for child predators. Me, as the FBI, is not saying never use Kik, but if you can avoid it, it's not great. Instagram is not a bad app. It's safe. For the most part, it's great. It's just very common. And I think it's because of the lack of privacy settings that a lot of kids these days don't put privacy settings on their profile, or they want to bump up their number of followers because their friend has 800 and they only have 400 and they need to compete and they're only getting 50 likes on their every post they put up and they want to get 1,000. And that's like the big influencer culture is really big on Instagram, and so we're seeing a lot of cases there. And that could all be managed and that could all go away with just privacy settings and don't accept random followers. Which, again, easier said than done. When I'm sitting here, I can say that. When you're sitting there, like, you can say that to your kids, and in the moment, they're like, well, this person just added me. I don't know. They look nice. They're pretty. And they're not thinking, like, oh, this is a child predator. So it comes back to, in the moment, they're not thinking it through. And then as soon as they get that follow, then, like, the next steps come on where they start the conversations. So this is kind of what I was talking about, like the apps and gaming systems, online gaming. You think it's safe, like, again, like Roblox. Like, you have canned answers that you can provide. Like, how could they possibly be infiltrating this app? How could they exploit children on this one? But they do, and they can. And kids, when you're like when you're playing a game with somebody online, like, your guard is immediately down. And so any sort of like app or game that's targeted towards children, like, I can promise you there are child predators on there targeting children every day. And this comes back to this slide, but, you know, selfies, nudes, images like that. It's just, you really need to be mindful of what is being posted. And I know it could come down to, like, if your child has an Instagram, that you have to also be one of their followers and see everything they're posting, or you check their privacy settings to make sure that they're on. Pictures that seem innocent, like your child just in a bathing suit or a sports bra or something, like on the beach, hanging out, even if it's with your family. I can tell you how many times I'm going through a computer or a device and it's just like chock full of child pornography, and then there's this girl's Twitter picture of her just at the beach in her bathing suit. And I don't know if, like, that really sinks in with like teenagers or kids when they're posting it, of like who their target audience is. Like, we know they want their friends to see it, they want their friends to like it, but when they're accepting these random followers, like, they you know, like, these child predators are also looking at that image. The child predator is also saving that image, and nobody, especially a teenager, wants to think that their image is being used by a child predator in the same reason that other pornography is. And that's like the big influencer culture again, is now everybody just they want as many followers, as many likes as they can. And and I really want, to impress upon you guys to talk to your kids, like, that's not what's important. And I know, again, that's easier said than done. But if we could stop that or rein that back in, get them to put the privacy settings up and know that, like, it's not, your safety is more important than the number of likes that you get on any picture. And I know that everybody in here knows that, all the kids know that, but it's the culture now of being on the internet, the influencers, it's being lost. And, once a picture is sent, it can't be taken back. If it's posted on the internet, it's out there, anybody in the world can see it. And I know that, again, everybody knows that, but I can tell you, I've seen pictures of kids here, and then, somebody in Germany sees it, and then we get that information back here in the United States. So we have kids that we have worked investigations on who are here, and almost anywhere in the world, like anywhere in Europe, Japan, India, like all these countries, like they end up everywhere. It's almost a commodity that they trade with each other on these apps. Like Kik is a really big one, but it's a currency to them, where they're like, well, I'll send you what I have, but you have to send me this first. I've seen links on, like, mega links, where they've sent 50 gigabytes at a time, and the whole thing is, every single image or video in there is child pornography. And they send that thinking, like, then the next person's going to send them their 50 gigabytes back. It's so prevalent, and once it's out there, like, there's nothing we can do. We can't stop it. We can just track it at that point. So grooming, like, everybody's heard of grooming. This is how child predators really start to bring the children's guard down with, flattery. I've seen them, send pornography to children to make them feel more comfortable that, like, it's normal. They try and normalize it. I've seen it also where, like, not even just over the internet, where, a hands-on person trying to groom a child is showing them pornography. They talk about sex, they talk about body parts, they talk about all of that, and it keeps bringing the child's guard down. And one, that'll either get the child to then produce nude images of themselves to send on, or that'll bring the child's guard down so much that, like, that person can go pick them up and then take them somewhere to, like, a hands-on offense, sexually assault that child. And a big thing with them is they always want, like, the predators are always saying, like, this has to be a secret, and they work to almost turn the child against their parents and say, like, if your parents ever find out, you would be in so much trouble. Or, you've already done so much for me, with me, or talk to me, I'll make sure your school knows, and then you're in so much trouble. Or I'll report you. They will turn it right around on the kid and say, I'll report you to the police. And then the kid, like, is just in a complete panic mode at that point, because they're like, oh, I don't want my parents to find out. Like, I'm going to get in trouble. And again, that's where the relationship and the knowledge for you guys comes in, is make sure your kids know that you want them to come talk to you. Obviously, like, if they're going to be in trouble, like, it's your parenting decision. But if you want them to come talk to you, if you want them to come forward, they need to know that, like, they're a victim here. If an adult is doing this to them online, these behaviors, they are a victim. And the more you can say that before something happens, the more likely they will be to come forward if something does happen. So this is a big topic right now. I can say a majority of my cases right now revolve around sextortion. And this is where the predators, or what we call our subjects, child predators online, entice through grooming practices, they entice a child to send them a nude image. And then once they get that nude image, they either, one, will immediately turn around and say, I'm going to send this out unless you send me money. Or if the child then starts to back off and says, I don't want to send you anymore, then they turn around and say, I will expose you if you don't keep sending me nude images. I've seen 15-year-olds who've sent up to like $1,500 to a criminal because they got their nude image. And I've seen kids who, as young as 8 who've been caught up in this. And they are so indiscriminate, these subjects, they don't care. Like, they don't care about the child. They don't feel bad at some point and back off. It's all just very, like, almost business-like to them. They will keep pushing until they get the money, or they'll keep pushing until they keep getting the nude images or the videos. And then it really only, it stops usually when law enforcement gets involved. Or, there's cases where kids are committing suicide over this. And, or they'll at some point stand up for themselves and, get the subject to stop. But again, here, victims report feeling scared, alone, embarrassed, anxious, and desperate. Many feel like there's no way out of the situation. And I think a lot of that comes down to is we just assume kids know all of this. We assume that because of this day and age, that it's 2022, kids know about the internet. They know don't talk to strangers. They know all of this. And we just assume so much that they know it that we don't talk to them about it. And this, something that the FBI can do better too. Like, we need to get out in front of kids and make sure that they know all of this. But it really starts at home with the caregivers, because you guys would be the natural first step, or the natural first person that these kids should go to. I don't ever want there to be a victim who's afraid to come forward because they're scared or embarrassed or alone. They might be embarrassed to talk to me about it, like they don't know me, the law enforcement. But I really hope that you guys go home and when you talk to your kids, let them know that they should never feel any of those things. They should never feel afraid to come forward. Because that's where we end up in the situations with those 100 other kids that didn't. And those feelings don't go away either. Just because this subject or this pedophile, whatever, stops talking to them doesn't mean they automatically just feel better. Like, that's something that's going to stick with them for a very long time. And we'll never know if they don't come forward, and parents might not know, and all of a sudden they just see this personality shift in their kid, and then the kid becomes, standoffish or depressed or something, and then all of a sudden they're getting in trouble for different reasons they don't even know, or they develop an attitude. And, they're talking back, and it's because they're scared and stressed and so anxious all the time. And so I hope, before anything, I would hope that, talking about internet safety would prevent this from ever happening, but that's unrealistic to think that this is never going to happen again. So the next best thing is have them feel comfortable enough to come forward to somebody. These are examples of a chat from a case that I worked. So I can't really read them on my screen, but you see this. The victim is on the left with the white, and the subject is with the blue. So the subject says, this was a girl. She was 11. She says, I will expose you. And she responds, please stop. Don't you have all the girls in the world? And he says, I have a lot, yes, but you hurt me and you got to pay for it. Do as you're told or your nudes will go online. And then she says, how many do you want? Then I am free. And he said, I will dictate that. And then you can see, and then on the next side, on the right side, where she kind of starts to push back a little bit on him, she says, okay, have fun with people yelling at you. He says, LMFAO, I don't give a F. I'm going to expose you to all your friends. And sorry, this is hard to read. But then he says he's going to send it to everybody in their school, so everybody in your school is going to know what you look like naked. And this girl was 11, and her parents never knew until we showed up at the door and said, this is what happened to your child. And sometimes it's harder for the kids when it happens that way. But, we have a duty to our victims, too, to make sure, we need to make sure they're okay. And so we can't just leave it unturned or unspoken to. This girl didn't feel comfortable coming forward to anybody. And she might not have ever if we didn't show up. It kind of goes through this pretty quickly, but why do they do it? How you sit here and think my kid would never do this. Why a stranger online is asking them to send a nude image that includes their face and their entire body? That seems ridiculous. My kid wouldn't do it. Why? These people, it's not like they just find one child usually and single that specific child out. This is so they cast such a wide net. And they speak to so many different children. They're just so good at it. And a lot of times they'll pose as a child who's also that age. And that puts them at ease, because then all of a sudden now they think they're exchanging nude images with someone their age, and it's not creepy and it's not weird. Threats, we have a case of criminal threatening a girl saying he would hurt her and bomb her school if she didn't send him pictures. Other cases where it's money, or in exchange for credits in a video game. There's modeling contracts for, I'll give you a modeling contract, but I just need to see what you look like first. Just send me a quick picture. So there's this first example was a man who was in his 40s who he worked as a youth minister, so he was around kids all the time. So he just started talking like they talk. And he knew the language, he knew all the abbreviations, he knew everything, and so everybody was just really at ease speaking to this person who they thought was a teenage girl. A lot of times we see that they're in love, right? This subject, he's telling 20 different underage girls or underage boys that they're in love with them, but sometimes if a kid is lonely, that's all it takes. And, they're like, I love you so much, I need to see a nude image of you. And then they feel wanted, they feel accepted, and they'll do anything for that person, including send them the image. Or a lot of times a subject will send an image first, which typically is a stolen image of another victim, and then that'll put a victim at ease and feel as though they can share a nude image back. And again, it is happening here. When you heard it, it's happened in this school district, and I can tell you it's happened in every single school district surrounding this one. It's happened in every county in the state. It's happening everywhere, and it's not just one. We could work, nonstop cases. We have local jurisdictions like the FBI. It's happening everywhere, and it's not just students that you would assume are at risk. We see, straight A students, students who are 3-sport athletes, social students. They have tons of friends. They're, again, children as young as 8 years old. It's not just girls. I think that's a big misconception too. It's a lot of boys, girls, or any gender, any socioeconomic group. Even if you think your child would never send any sort of nude or explicit images online, talk to them. Any child with access to the internet is at risk. And unfortunately, this is really the darkest side of all of this. Just recently, Jordan Demay from Marquette, Michigan, he committed suicide at 17 years old. He was extorted over Instagram for a nude image that he sent. And the sheriff's office found him, and the sheriff's office and the family of Jordan hope that this will assist the community in their healing. We also hope that this will educate others and spur courageous conversations about internet safety. The county sheriff there said a quote that this is an innocent young man who was a victim of cyber sextortion. This happens. this happens more frequently than you would think, and it's because of the desperation and the feeling that they can't come forward and they don't have anybody to talk to. And it's not anybody's fault except the subject who forced this child into that situation. But again, like his family has said from this, they hope that people can learn from this tragedy and that we will talk more to kids. I mean, nobody wants to sit there and talk to their kid and be like, let's talk about child pornography. Like, that's really uncomfortable. But it's something that's out there, and it's something that needs to happen. Like, we should never have another Jordan. It's devastating. And it can be preventable if we, start these conversations and engage with the kids. So, again, like, that's a lot of scary talk, a lot of, like, bad things can happen. The hardest thing is, like, what can we do? What can you do? And again, the most important advice I can ever have is have open and ongoing conversations about safe and appropriate behavior online. Like, ongoing is the most important thing there. Don't assume, I talked to them last week, like, they're fine, like, whatever, we'll figure it out. They'll be fine, they know. Again, the more you talk to them, the more likely they are to not just forget or turn off that switch when they're put in these situations. Some brief bullet points. So this is off our FBI.gov website. But educate yourself about the website, software, games, and apps that your child uses. Check their social media and gaming profiles and posts. Explain to your kids that once images or comments are posted online, they can be shared with anyone and they never truly disappear. Make sure your kids use privacy settings to restrict access to their online profiles. Tell your children to be extremely wary when communicating with anyone online who they do not know in real life. Encourage them to choose appropriate screen names and to create strong passwords, like a screen name that has their age in it or like their birthday. It's very common, and then that's also like, again, like a beacon for subjects. If you have your birthday in there, then they know you're a child, or your high school. That's another big one we see. Make it a rule with your kids that they can't arrange to meet up with someone that they meet online without your knowledge and supervision. I mean, that's on our website, but I don't see any reason for them to meet up with anybody at all. But stress to your kids that making any kind of threat online, even if they think it's a joke, is a crime. So I just had this. It's not related to child pornography, but a kid, he was 17, and he was on Yik Yak. And he just made a post that said that there was going to be a drive-by shooting in his town. And that got flagged by Yik Yak. It got sent to the FBI. So Sunday morning, I ended up showing up at this kid's sleepover, and he had to get woken up by his mom because this kid made a threat about a shooting online. And then the next day, this kid had the FBI at his house. So it's not funny. I didn't think it was funny because it was my weekend off, and I still ended up going out there. And it's serious because what if that was real, though? Like, so we can't ignore these things. But I can tell you that he was shocked when he had 2 FBI agents show up at his door for something he thought was a joke. And I can tell you, he didn't think it was funny after we talked to him. But report any inappropriate contact between an adult and your child to law enforcement immediately, and also notify the site that they're using. I'll kind of go through these a little bit more quickly, but if your child has sent nude explicit images online, they are a victim. They are not the one who is breaking the law. It's very confusing, and the criminals count on children feeling too unsure, scared, or embarrassed to tell someone. Even if it started on an app or a site that the child is too young to be on, even if the child felt that it was okay about making some of the content, even if the child accepted money or game credits or something of value, they are not the one who is in trouble. Sextortion is a crime because it is illegal and wrong for an adult to ask for, pay for, demand graphic images from a minor. When you talk to your children about internet safety, make sure that they know they will not be the one in trouble if they come forward. These are also on the FBI's website, sort of if you need to review them after the fact. But these are just really good, kickstart a 30-second conversation with your kid. If you don't it's again awkward to talk about sometimes. But again, the new version of Don't Talk to Strangers. These are just some questions you can ask them just to start the conversation. You know, when you're online, has anyone you don't know ever tried to contact or talk to you? What did you do? Or really, really importantly, what would you do if something like that happened? And what do you think why do you think someone would want to reach a kid online? Again, like the power of a picture. Has anyone you know ever sent a picture of themselves that got passed around school or a team or a club? What's possible anytime you send someone a picture? What if the picture was embarrassing? Can you think about how someone could use that kind of picture against a person? And then the last one, I'm here to help. You know, tell them I read an article today about kids being pressured to send images, or hey, I heard from an FBI agent today that this is happening. Sometimes kids are being threatened and harassed, and it's scary. And you know, if you're ever feeling like something is going on, online or off, that feels scary or wrong or over your head, my first concern is always going to be helping you. You can always come to me. And yeah, this is like modern day version of don't get in the white van that says free candy, right? Like don't talk to strangers online. It's not this easy to spot anymore. They're good at hiding. They pose as other kids all the time, and then they think nobody will come after them because who wants to go after the 16-year-old girl who's, you know, innocent, a child herself? Most of the time it's not. These are some resources that we have. Again, a lot of these you can find on the FBI's website. These videos, this SOS is Safe Online Surfing. They have different levels for like 3rd through 8th grade. There's like fun little videos they can watch in games, and it kind of just teaches them like age-appropriate ways to use the internet. NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, it's a really good website. They have a lot of different resources to look at. Again, this one has age-appropriate videos about online safety. Just FBI.gov, if you look at that and go to the Crimes Against Children section, that's a lot of what I talked about today is on there. And heaven forbid your child was ever kidnapped or goes missing, this FBI Child ID app, you can download it onto your phones, and you just put all your child's identifying information in there, keep up-to-date images of them, and it really helps like law enforcement or the FBI if they show up and your kid is missing. It's just a quick, easy way to share all the pertinent information, and then you'll be prepared if anything does happen of what information they would even ask you for if they showed up. If you want to report a crime to the FBI, anything related to what we talked about today, sextortion or online child abuse, IC3.gov is our Internet Crimes Complaint Center, or tips.fbi.gov. Our National Threat Intake Center is 1-800-CALL-FBI, or if you want to come directly to FBI Milwaukee, the phone, if you just Google FBI Milwaukee, that's the phone number. It just calls to our main office, and you can just ask to be transferred to somebody who works crimes against children, or you can stop by. We take walk-in complaints, so if you want to come in and talk in person, again, our address, it's not a secret building, so if you just Google it, you can find the address. It's big, so you can come down, even if it's not a complaint. If anything we talked about today, if you need to have a separate one-on-one conversation that there's something we didn't address today, you don't want to talk about it, or you have questions later on that you want to talk to the FBI about, like you can call. Our call intake center can get you in touch with me if you need that. But that's all I have for my presentation. You want to open up for questions? Sure, go ahead. They really don't. Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, so the question was, are like the standard privacy settings that parents can put on profiles, are they sufficient, or do we have these subjects or perpetrators working around them? I would say for the most part, just the ones that, you know, you could access or check on your child's profile, they'll stop most subjects or perpetrators. Like, these people aren't looking to put in effort for this, right? Like, there are enough kids out there that have open profiles or who will accept any followers that if your kid has a pretty locked down profile and they send them a follow request and then that follow request is denied, they'll move on to the 15 other, like they're gonna move on to the kids that don't have the privacy settings and who do accept their follow requests. And so it really, like on Instagram, if your profile's on private, it's a really great start. And if your child does not accept them as a follower, I can't guarantee anything, obviously, but like then they're safer, and I think it's more than sufficient. From what I've seen, they move right on past those kids. Yeah. Okay, so the question is, if a student has to hand in their phone, will they get it back? And I'm sure that's like a big reason why nobody ever wants to report this, because they are afraid that their phone is going to be taken. No, we don't want to, we're not trying to steal the kids' phones and keep it forever. We do take it so that we can get the information that we need about the subject off of it. So usually that just, it can take, depending on where it goes or like how busy we are at the time, it can take a day, it can take a week, but it usually doesn't take more than a week. And we give it back, especially to victims. Like we don't want the kid to have to suffer any more than they already have. And we're not trying to punish them for coming forward. We just want to make sure we get all the information we need to go after the subject and then give them back their device. Yep. So the question is, are there any like recommended apps or anything out there where parents can monitor their kids' phones and what they're doing? I don't have any of them with me, and I don't necessarily want to like throw out an FBI endorsement for apps, but there are, and I think that it's a great tool. I can tell you just a personal story. I had a friend who her daughter was 12 years old and had a friend, and she called her friend stupid in a message, and she was joking around, and that got flagged in her parental control app for cyberbullying, that she was bullying your friend. And then so mom went and looked in and like did a bit of a deeper dive and realized like what was happening. And it ended up being a joke, but like there are apps out there that I mean that's great. That's something like that simple was flagged. So you can imagine like if something really bad is happening. But yeah, I think I would highly recommend. Yeah. No, it's okay. Yeah, perfect. Well, you can throw them out there.
Hey, Officer Kraus, Pewaukee Police Department. So one app that I learned about when I went through ICAC school and became an ICAC affiliate is called MySpy. It's a website that is, you can pay monthly or annually for it, and essentially what it does is you will go to their website, pay for their subscription, and then they're actually going to go in through your cell phone provider, and it will download software into every phone that's on that account. So be mindful of that, you know, if you and your husband or your spouse is on there with your kids, it's also going to go in their phones. But you can see everything that's done on the phone. Texts, emails, what apps are opened and closed, what apps are runtime, hours. I mean, it really gets in detail on what the people are using on their cell phone. So it's a great option for those that want to be able to see everything that their kid's doing online. Last time I checked, the fees aren't super unreasonable. I think it was like $30 a month or $300 annually. So I guess it really depends on what you want to do with that. But just be mindful, it goes in through your cell phone provider and will go on everybody's phone that's on the account. So, any other questions?
The one, I was just going to add 2 items. One, also like a great way to control your kids' phones is to have it be charged in a common space, especially overnight. Do not let them take them into their bedrooms overnight. Leads to sleep deprivation. They're going to be checking their phone regularly, you know, blue screen, all that. All that's going to happen when they have it in their bedrooms. So try to make sure they're charged in common spaces where everybody can kind of see the activity that's going on, but they're also not keeping that up at night. Another one I was just going to mention regarding Snapchat too. I know you just touched on it too, but there's a whole Snap Maps on there as well. So be cognizant of what is turned on, and also be cognizant of the age. A lot of these social media platforms require students or kids to be 13 years of age. 13 years. So yes, there might be some, you know, there's the outside chance kids could lie about their age in order to access and use that social media platform. It happens all the time. So just that there is a minimum age requirement. It's 13 for a majority of those social media platforms. Any other questions that we can answer for you or try to? Yeah. What percentage of students have, if there is a percent, do you have any percents on any estimates? I don't think we have any estimates on the number of kids. But it's just becoming more and more prevalent, especially with the pandemic, the post-pandemic, it's just skyrocketed. Just because they have a lot more time in their hands. There are a lot of times more people are behind the screens as well. But great question. Any other questions? Yeah, just another one, you know, we talked about having an adult in the building that you can talk to, the police department. Also, Speak Up, Speak Out Wisconsin is the statewide anonymous reporting tip line. So any tips, bullying, you name it, anything can be reported on this tip line. So it's completely available. There's a QR code on the resource links. You know, kids can report it, adults can report it, community members can report it, anybody can and use this. And they work with local law enforcement and wherever the issue or concern is. Obviously, if a tip is serious enough, it'll escalate up that the ladder quickly to hopefully be resolved and taken care of. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So the question is, if a student has, or if there's a kid that has a friend that's in trouble and they want to report it, this tip line is a great option. Also, you know, if they talk to a trusted adult, I mean, we try to do our best to maintain, you know, make it anonymous, but that is an anonymous reporting tip line. So they could make a tip or, you know, send a tip to the Speak Up, Speak Out Wisconsin, and then it can be taken care of from there. You know, and, you know, like Sarah was saying, we want to help people. We're here to educate. We're here to help you. We want to have, you know, make sure you have those conversations with your kids and make them feel comfortable and be safe online. So, I mean, yeah, they might not want to give up their friend or, you know, report their friend, but you know what? We're here to help. You know, it's a care piece where we want to care for them. We want to make sure the victim is taken care of and the issue is taken care of. Good question, though. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I think that was a really good question, but because it made me think when we were being advised to talk to our children and what to say to them and about, because I think shame or fear of getting in trouble is why kids won't report things. It's really important that we have these conversations with our kids because the most likely person that a child is going to go to is their friend. It's not going to be you, and it's not going to be the adults in our school. They're going to talk to their friends first. And if their friends know that something was sent, look, you're not going to get in trouble. You're the victim. So if you have that conversation with your son, your daughter, and their friend confides in them that, you know, my parents talked to me about this, there was an FBI presentation, you're the victim, you are not going to get in trouble, someone can help you, you need to report this. So it's as important for your child as for everybody else's child. It's not unlike we have something we're developing here at school called Hope Squad. Hope Squad is actually a suicide prevention program that we have where we're training peers so that they can have these conversations and they know how to help their friends because we know kids are going to go to their friends first. So that's another reason why I think that's super important.
We just had another note of, like, say, the most common and prevalent time for bullying to happen is between 4 and 9 p.m., right after school. So when they get home, between that and when they go to bed, that's the most prevalent time for online bullying. Any other questions we can try and answer for you? Any comments from kids that yeah. Yep. Mhm. Question is there any specific advice to handle unsolicited texts? And that goes to spam too, because there's a lot more spam texts that are coming out. Do you guys have any comments or recommendations on what to do if they're getting unsolicited text and/or?
So even if it's not necessarily like a predator or something trying to reach them, the advice is pretty much the same. If anybody they don't know is contacting them on the phone, they need to block that number. Like, just block it immediately. Do not respond. Don't engage. Sometimes these scams get pretty clever, and these kids might think like, oh, this is my friend texting me or whatever. But as soon as they realize it's not right or something triggers a red flag with them, they need to just block the number. If they did respond, I would hope that, they could come forward and talk to you and like say, hey, I did this, and they would feel comfortable about it. Chances are, if they're just sending like a innocent message back and forth and they realize this is just some like a scam or something stupid, like not their real friend, that nothing bad would actually have happened there. But it is a chance that, I've seen people just like even subjects of mine just like randomly send out blast texts or random numbers or just randomly add people on Snapchat or all these different things. And hopefully also a child would know that like the IRS isn't calling them because their taxes are late. So like stuff like that. But as long that does bring up a good point of talk to them about that too. It's not always a child predator looking for them, but we've seen a lot of these cases on our end. They're started because it is a scam, and people are looking for money, and that's actually like that kind of crime is on the rise. It's like the new Nigerian prince scam is get a 15-year-old to send a nude image and then have them go steal from mom and dad and send me all the money they can, and that's what's really happening. So yeah, it's a really good point to bring up to them that it's not just going to be on social media sites. It could just be random texts that just seem off. But yeah, if they don't know them, it seems weird, just block them. Sure. So the question is, do these predators just randomly add these kids, or are they looking specifically for phone numbers or something on a social media site? A lot of it is just random. That they will, especially on Snapchat, has that quick ad feature, which is something that you should talk to your kids about. No, it's something you can turn off so that you're not on quick ad. All of them should turn off quick ad. There's no reason they should be on it. And that's how a lot of, like on Snapchat, that's how they find these kids. They just go through and click add all the way down for 50 to 100 different profiles. And so you text them back. And a common question, even if, is just they ask for your age right off the bat. So they'll ask their age, and if someone responds to them like 19, they're like, too old for me. But if someone responds 10, then they're like, okay, good, now I'll go. They definitely have found, they'll do random ads on Facebook, Instagram, anything like that, if the child does have a phone number or something on their profile. When it goes back into that sextortion portion where they've already gotten what they need and the kid's trying to back out, that's just another way for them to start hitting them up. And then they'll start blowing up their phone. So it's something that they're aware of, and usually it gets there. But I haven't seen most kids in these situations aren't targeted for a specific reason. It's a lot of just random ads, or they're targeted in the sense that they put up a lot of bikini pictures or something like that. But a lot of it is just random. Do we have another question? Yeah. Yes. So there are specific apps where that like location data can be pulled out of pictures. And like we were talking about with Snapchat, there's a feature. Yeah, you can turn off like your location settings in these apps, like going on ghost mode. Like you can do that. But there are like software tools that are available that it sounds like real like FBI stuff that they just got a picture and then they found my GPS coordinates. Yeah, we can definitely do that, but there are ways that they can do that too if they receive just an image. And it doesn't even have to be a nude image. If you sent them a picture of your cat, they have all of that data from that image. And if they're savvy enough, yeah, they can find your location.
Especially if it's not sent, like if it's sent via email
Yeah.
or anything else, the metadata is attached to that photo, so they'll be able to know where the location is.
So Facebook, if you post like your profile picture on Facebook, Facebook does strip all of that out of there. It's like Instagram will do that too, so they can't get the data. But if they're like texting or sending private messages or something like that, it's a lot more easy. It's easier for them to find it, a lot more likely that they'll be able to. Any questions? Those are all really good questions.
Yeah, well, great questions. And then just a reminder, there's a lot of great resources on this Safety Hub. So having the conversations regarding any of those, just about every single social media platform that Sarah had listed on the slide earlier, those are all on here. So if you're wanting to learn more about, hey, that particular platform, go on the Safety Hub and, check out these resources. They're at your disposal at any time. Any other questions? One last time. Okay, we're going to hang around. If anyone else in person would like to ask questions, we'll hang around right here. And then for those of you online, all of our contact information is also on the Safety Hub. So if you want to reach Rachel, Julie, or myself, all of our information is located on there. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional follow-up questions. But otherwise, thank you for coming.